I think it's absolutely insane that Korea is sitting at 1-4.
FLICKR was just dominated, starting out 0-2 in what was meant to be their group.
And here comes the dive. Kongyue is far to look for Ruler. He flashes, but he's still been caught. The knockup in RNG. A duo start to Worlds. The defending champions, 0-2. What?
You do have to keep in mind that their #1 seed has only played one of those games. I expect them to bounce back to a point.
One of the many marquee matchups that we have here at the World Championship, Caps Rookie.
Rookie got MVP of the LPL region. He has been looking like one of the strongest, if not the strongest mid laner in the whole world.
Well, he's gone to the back line. Rookie's hoping to get even more on this one. The third kill is in. They're looking for #4. Olaf's got nowhere to go. Goodbye. A quick team fight out for IG.
I want to see how I do against him, and I want to try to prove myself early in the tournament.
Great stun. Caps looking for it. Does put the Vanguard dead. Flash forward. That's a solo kill. Caps, but that's still going to be the case here. Caps looking at a solo kill again. It's happening again. Fnatic styled all over 100 Thieves.
And Caps, you have to say, living up to the hype so far.
캡 선수 잘하는데 봐야 되겠어요. 얼마나 잘하는지.
Welcome back to World's Countdown, where we're about 9 minutes away from Game 1. And while this is an important chapter for a lot of superstars hitting the stage today, the long road to arrive here can't be overlooked. So let's get a refresher on their stories and our players to watch for today, starting with Fnatic's Caps.
Now, the mid laner for Fnatic, he started his LCS career back in 2017 when he joined the Fnatic squad after their big roster shuffle. Throughout the year, he kind of had up and down performances, trying to be a big carry for his team and not really finding consistency. At the World Championship last year, he kind of showed up, but not really. He didn't really make a name for himself. It wasn't until MSI that we really got to see the true potential of Caps.
Yeah, and I really do think he's taken a leap between 2017 and 2018. We've seen the Fnatic coaching staff talk about it. We've seen Reckless talk about it, how he was a good mechanical player who could play his lane in 2017, but now he can play the whole map and really be the carry of the team. We saw this mostly in the summer split when they were diversifying styles, switching out bot laners, switching out top laners, and he nearly unanimously won the MVP in Europe. So he has leveled up so much in the past year, even though he was still pretty good in 2017.
We saw that stat, 17 solo kills in 2018 summer in Europe.
Five
yesterday. Are you kidding me? On the Irelia pick into the Syndra. And the next guy I want to talk about is who he's matching up against today. Rookie, same thing. Played that Irelia Syndra matchup yesterday. Absolutely dominated with it.
Yeah, formerly of the LCK, Rookie joined the LPL after 2014. So he's been in the region for 3 years, and he is now the face as a career Korean of Invictus Gaming. Now, Rookie himself finally just found his first berth in an LPL finals this summer split, wasn't able to lift the crown, but he is a back-to-back MVP of both spring and summer. And while he is hailed as being the best mid laner in the LPL, a lot of people put him in the conversation of best mid laner in the world.
And that's the crazy thing. When you talk to so many different mid laners, everyone has always said FLICKR is the best mid laner in the world. And Rookie usually narrowly misses out at the World Championship, so we haven't gotten to see him on the stage. But that's what everyone's been waiting to see, right? How will he actually perform? Because he's been so amazing, he just hadn't been able to win in the LPL to get here.
I mean, the darkest timeline was the fact that we never got to see really FLICKR at his prime and Rookie at his prime really crash. And it feels like we're constantly missing those windows, but now he gets a shot at the Caps. So,
those two players will face off in the third matchup of the day. Of course, the first matchup involves KT Rolster, and the last player I want to talk about here is Score in the jungle.
Yeah, we saw Papa Smithy touching on a lot of the KT Rolster members, but this guy, it was quite fitting that he was able to win the LCK title for the first time this year after playing in every LCK season prior and falling up short. And now he's in a situation after watching so many other Korean teams win the World Championship where it almost has to be him now because Afrika and Genji have started 0-2. So the pressure has been turned up, but this is the year where he's been able to stand up to that pressure, win the LCK. Now he's just got to continue the transition.
Well, with those players taking to the stage today, I'm going to gauge the analyst's faith in these players, or rather these stars, in today's predictions. Throwing those up on the screen.
What?
I'm seeing...
Ross Curran?
Gas!
Where's the IG prediction?
You wait, what? Hang on a minute. That's not what we agreed.
That's not what I agree with production either, so...
Is it an IG prediction for you?
It's an IG prediction.
Okay, good to know, good to know.
Okay,
so,
okay.
Wrong we have Frost predicting EDG over TL, Vedius and Jat putting faith in that Team Liquid squad, and then we'll make that substitution in IG over Fnatic. But those seem to be the contentious matchups of the day. Everything else pretty determined, even though this tournament has proven it can be anything but.
So far, we've seen Korea struggle. I think today is the day we see the LPL start to struggle, because I think that Team Liquid have looked, their first opposition was against one of the best teams at the tournament, if not the best team at the tournament. And I think that they're a team that is very smart, they learn very quickly, and they have very clear potential to be able to shut down EDG just through better teamwork.
And see, on the other side, for me, I agree. I think the teamwork, the macro is all there for Team Liquid. I did have Edward Gaming in this, simply because pound for pound talent, I do believe that they win out individually, particularly in that mid lane. Pobelter, unfortunately, was really exposed in the Syndra versus Ryze matchup, died multiple times, and the only reason that Edward Gaming are here is because of how well Scout is playing. And I think with Clearlove joining the roster, it can shore up a lot of the macro performance and carry Edward
And
Gaming.
Jad, I think it's reasonable to have a lot of reservation around the Team Liquid squad based on their MSI performance. This is a team that we saw as soon as they came into any amount of adversity, they really crumbled.
It's what happened at MSI, and you saw a lot of those same things happening, in my opinion, against KT Rolster. And Doublelift even said in the interview after the game that the team was playing scared, they were hesitant, and that is par for the course of what they said when they had the disastrous opening at MSI. But one thing I will say is they were able to course correct at MSI, pulling a streak of wins at the end, one of them over RNG, and actually getting to a tiebreaker game. So the hope would be that with the day off, they can course correct a little bit faster this time, because they need to. I'm putting a little bit of faith in them to be able to do that, which is why Vedius and I have both predicted.
But I'm really curious about your Fnatic prediction, because I mean, we obviously are going IG Fnatic, but you're the deciding one.
Apparently, I just swung it. I had them one higher above. So this one is a little bit based off of pre-tournament expectations. And I was expecting Invictus Gaming to be running the Shy, because I feel like they are trying to be actors when they play with Duke and play like a macro-heavy team, when I really feel like their true strength lies in consistently outplaying people in 1v1 situations. And the Shy is way better at that than Duke. So in that case, I don't think they're going to outclass Fnatic enough individually, and then Fnatic might be able to take them post 25 minutes.
All right, let's narrow our focus into the first matchup of the day. Despite the performance of LCK's other two seeds, KT Rolster are still looking like clear favorites in this group.
Yeah, I think that based on how KT played on day one, to me, it was very controlled. They were able to execute upon their win conditions very clearly, and every play that TL tried to make, they were very quick to respond and shut down. And just because of how effective they looked, in my eyes, in their game versus Team Liquid, they're looking like very heavy favorites coming into this match.
And it's the terrifying way of how they dominate a map. For me, when I look at a team like KT Rolster, Papa Smithy talked about it over there, but it's the fact that you can pick pretty much anyone on this roster. It's not even just about, Smeb, Ucal, and Deft. And, normally Ucal's not even in that conversation, but after that Syndra performance can definitely be there. But someone like Mata can straight hard carry a game for KT Rolster on some of these playmaking supports like Alistair, which are so in the meta right now.
So then what's the source of recourse for Mad Team? How do we identify, or how do we think of this team's chances going up against a powerhouse like KT?
I think Mad Team needs to build on what they did in the EDG game, where we actually saw them have some fairly strong mid-game team fights. We saw Kongyue have some good fights in the early game to get the counter ganks off. I thought Breeze and K were actually very strong. The bottom lane for Mad Team with the Ezreal. Spawn did a good segment, if you wanted to go back and watch it, for the pregame before that one, talking about how they can utilize the Ezreal to get the 1-3-1 going, because even though KT did look impressive post 20 minutes against Team Liquid, the first 20 minutes were actually fairly pedestrian in that one. So if they get into that moment, you can have a winnable game for Mad Team.
You want to go?
Yeah, I do. Because I want to just
Yes.
I love it.
Because I want to talk about the confidence that we also saw from this team. The fact that they were willing to match up against EDG in all of the early skirmishes. And we're going toe-to-toe in many of the fights. Like, LPL is one of the best team fighting regions in the world. And the fact that we saw Mad Team, often, matching them and just making a couple of crucial mistakes later on into the game gives me a lot of optimism that I'm expecting more action in this game compared to the last time we saw KT play.
All right, Frost, you get to close us out.
I think that Smeb is absolutely going to destroy Mad Team's top laner. I think that's the biggest weakness that they have. His target selection in some of those crucial team fights was a big issue and a downfall. So unfortunately, I think as long as
Dad,
they
I'm
can
struggling
that,
to figure out who you think is going to win this game.
Blue KT, white KT,
or black KT. I don't know. Too many options, right? Too many options. All right, well, there you have it. Time to get started with today's action. So let's head over to Pastry Time, Spawn, and Deficio for game 1.
Thank you, Dash, and welcome to Mad Team versus KT Rolster. I'm Julian Pastry Time Car, and I've surprised my co-casters with the opportunity to invest at my newest restaurant on wheels. It's Pulsar and Prawns with Jake Spawn Tabieri and Martin Deficio. Are you guys in?
I'll do it. Like, I guess. I've not had Pulsar. Is it nice? I've heard good things.
I'm sure you had sausage before.
I've had sausage before, yeah.
It's not the Danish quality.
Not the
That's
Danish.
what you've been missing out on.
Absolutely it is. And, you know, prawns everywhere in the world, Pastry Time. Also known as shrimp,
I really like shrimp.
Prawns are great.
Have to agree. Well, you know what else is great? Great League of Legends, and KT certainly looking to deliver even more of that. Korea's struggled a little bit at 1-4, but KT, the only team with a 1 in that win column, looking to make it number 2.
100% win rate so far.
Looking good.
Absolutely no panic if you are a KT fan just yet. Also, the fact they're on red side against Mad Team is really good, because Mad Team, they're not very good at drafting strong laners, and KT now get a bunch of counter picks.
Not only that, when they do draft strong laners, Liang and Uniboy have consistently let their team down in early game situations.
Yeah, that's why don't do it. Just draft for team fights.
Even when they were playing against, you know, like Fofo in the semifinals, Uniboy was getting solo killed in that series. So
Maple did the same.
Yeah, Maple was arguably even scarier in that situation. Ucal on the Syndra was petrifying. I just don't understand how you make that trade where Uniboy gets a good matchup.
I mean, what we have seen teams do in the past, if your mid laner is a lot weaker than the other one, picks like Malzahar kind of become the thing, or maybe a Lulu in there. Malzahar can lose lane pretty hard, but at least you bring suppression, so that's something for your team. They need to just find a way to make sure Uniboy does not get completely destroyed.
Yeah, and this is interesting because Breeze has just locked in the Kai'Sa. And whilst Kai'Sa is a power pick, we keep talking about the fact that this guy is willing to play mid-game carries. It wasn't until they played Flash Wolves, a team that clearly outclassed the Mad Team lineup in the final game of the LMS final, that they were willing to go towards this champion, and it did not look pretty.
So this is pretty interesting because that's an Irelia locked in there for KT with Aatrox still left up. So could be Flex, of course. We've seen it mid be pretty impressive, but maybe Smeb's got something on his mind.
I agree. Could be. I think it's just Ucal saying, you know what, Uniboy, you got nothing here. Like, I just need this one champ. I don't want to risk it getting banned in the second phase. And with this pick, I can carry this game.
And people were telling me, Martin, you in particular, that I had over-indexed in my Mad Team preparation, that I had sat down and watched so many of their games. I was looking for a way for them to get Uniboy out of the mid lane laning phase.
Lissandra?
And so much of it was actually not even priority picking his lane, was getting a good jungler for Kongyue that could just support him in that mid lane. It's such a potent area, and they're not going towards it at the moment. It makes me a little bit worried.
I mean, if they go Lissandra plus early game jungler, there's good setup around mid lane. The other strategy for them in the past have been banning a lot of mid laners, but they didn't go for it. This time, only the Akali was banned away, and that's almost more of a top lane at this point. But with Irelia early locked in, I really feel like Ucal's just saying, I am so confident. If I get a carry pick in the mid lane, there's nothing you can do against me.
And I wonder if we see the Taliyah or the Olaf, because there are a couple of picks left for Kongyue in that jungle position.
But look at this.
Rakan?
They did the thing we've already seen a couple of teams do, where they go Kai'Sa, Rakan, and they basically surrender the early laning phase, but there's already a Varus on the other side, and
Leona.
Exactly, what's the counter pick we have seen to Rakan? It's Leona. Mad Team, your laning phase bot lane is not going to be fun.
You said draft for team fight, Martin.
That's true. That's fair. You are correct. I didn't think necessarily you had to go for the Rakan here.
Agree. And there's Syndra banned away from KT, so going to keep that away from Uniboy as well.
That's really interesting. So that's like a top lane flex that they're worried about here with the Lissandra. We've already seen it played once with the Aftershock there from FLICKR, and potentially other teams picking up. We've seen it as a mid lane pick as well. Direwolves mid lane and triple picked it up. Didn't have much success with it, but was one of the better performing members.
He tried.
Yeah, he really did try. I mean, he was dragging people with him at one point in that game.
He really tried.
Really wasn't going his favor.
Well, we could see Mad Team banning away Scores champion. They're going to take Kindred off the board. KT respond with Sion, another solo lane ban taken away.
And honestly, Spawn, you already talked about the potential jungle pick. Like, Kongyue needs to just lock in something where he can be a huge carry for this team, because right now they don't have that bridge between the early game and the late game. So I feel like you need an early game jungler to do that.
I feel like the impressive thing here is if they just pick up the Aatrox now, then they have the opportunity to last pick jungle for score. So if it is going to be an Olaf, then he can take something like a Lee Sin. If it's a Taliyah, maybe he can take something like an Olaf. And they just have the flexibility to play around it. Interesting that that's not what they're going for.
I like this Taliyah pick here, though, for score. I mean, we've seen it a lot in the jungle, been pretty successful so far. And if they absolutely have to flex it for Ucal, who was the Taliyah guy, they can if they need to really make a last-minute pivot in the draft.
I mean, Score was also one of the best Taliyah junglers in Korea because he's so smart in terms of pathing. He knows where to be and how to pressure on the map with the extra mobility she does bring when she's moving around. And it's one of the best early game junglers, and we just said how Kongyue needs to play an early game jungler, and he needs to be able to beat Score to get his team to the late game.
And the evolution of Taliyah jungle, you know, just from this quick jungler that has good ganks to the potential to start team fights with the wall, the ability to set up chokes around turrets or throughout the jungle is something that KT also does play around well. They don't have the most obvious engage apart from throwing out a Leona ultimate, so being able to funnel Mad Team in this situation into bad situations is going to make it very easy for something like a Varus, Irelia to access that backline.
Well, last two picks here for Mad Team were Olaf for the early game jungler and the Aatrox that fell all the way to 5th pick. But KT have saved something spicy for last. There's Swain locked in.
Very interesting with the Swain here. We obviously have to see where everything ends up going. Swain top lane is what I'm expecting right now. Aatrox as well going into the top lane on the side of Mad Team. So you get the range advantage on the side of Smeb, and then you have the early game jungler with Taliyah. But we have to also look at the Olaf. It is often considered one of the counter picks to Taliyah once you get level 6, not before. But at level 6, when she can't knock you away, you can run her down. But I've seen a lot of junglers actually still take the Taliyah matchup and say, it's fine, we don't really care about the 1v1.
I think the other important thing to point out is that Kongyue, for his team, is used to trying to get his mid lane and his top lane to shove a little bit to give him some vision. He does like to play around bottom lane, but you have to be able to do that in windows as Olaf. If you get counter ganked, you're in, you can't really get back out. So I think there is a lot of pressure on this Aatrox pick to actually work.
And now he's gonna actually have a really hard time because last second, KT swapped Irelia to top lane for Smeb. He's gonna take the 1v1 matchup for himself with the Taliyah on his side. This should be really good for Smeb.
And the thing that I love that's kind of genius about what KT have done is that they intentionally left Aatrox through this draft, a pick that has been picked in phase 1 so early and banned so frequently throughout the tournament. They just took Irelia knowing they could flex it, and Smeb's like, if he takes the Aatrox that I'm baiting him into, I think I can win this matchup. And given the quality of player that Smeb is, I think he can win too.
Listen, it's an uphill battle from the start if you're Mad Team. You're playing against KT, the #1 seed, the LCK champions. But we saw when they played against EDG, they got to late game, they got to play big team fights. That is still the win condition for this team.
And I think that the impressive thing was that the team fights when their team was online, when the Ezreal was at 2.5 items, were actually quite impressive. It wasn't until late game when that Xayah was starting to scale up to 6 items that it started to fall apart. This time they do have the scaling 80 carry.
Well, we'll see what happens here. Mad Team certainly a tough matchup ahead. KT Rolster looking to continue to put wins up on the scoreboard. As we'll see them play for the second time this World Championship. KT not got a whole lot of love on camera just yet, but we'll see what happens here as Mad are going to fan out. In fact, both teams just across the river, 10-man straight.
And it's interesting that we're not seeing any level 1 action, because one of the strengths of both Taliyah and Olaf, especially when you have some form of CC, is the fact that they can walk into jungle early and get some deeper vision. I think this game could be won for KT rather early if Score is able to get eyes on the Olaf and try and track him around the map.
Yeah, I definitely agree. Whenever you chat to European junglers about Taliyah specifically, they always say that the most important thing in the early game is just knowing where the enemy jungler is at, because you're faster than he is. You can actually move around the map much quicker. So if you know, okay, he's about to clear something on bottom side, you can maybe invade his top side, or you can look for a player on the top side much quicker than he can go down to your bottom lane. So simply just having information is the #1 thing as a Taliyah jungle. For now, though, they do not have any deep wards. I did just notice the bot lane from Mad Team are running double cleanse.
And I was going to mention that that is something that they have done in the past. However, they do normally do it with a spell book, not with the Guardian. So this is a super defensive setup.
Yeah, the problem for Rakan is he's been actually nerfed so many times in the early game that he needs to run Guardian. Like, he just needs that keystone to have a proper laning phase, especially now that he got counterpicked with the Leona, and a Varus was also stronger in the early game than a Kai'Sa. Like, KT's bot lane is just set up to win.
Going to be a struggle certainly there as Ucal does pull Uniboy in with the E, gets a bit of early trade damage down. Also, Fox Grasp of the Undying. We've seen this a little bit from Swain's here and there, usually in top side, but he's going to have it here in mid as well as Electrocute Fox on the other side for Uniboy.
Yeah, and that's the other thing I wanted to point out is that it is a very regular keystone on the Lissandra, but the fact that it has been just nerfed so many times, it is interesting to see the aggressive choice. This game is eventually going to devolve into 5v5 team fights, I feel, unless Smeb can get a big advantage in one of the side lanes. So I would have liked to have seen a defensive summoner spell coming out of Uniboy, trying to play more of the facilitator role as opposed to that burst assassin.
Give me that Predator. So you can actually roam to the bottom lane or top lane and try and shut down the Irelia here from Smeb. Because the thing about KT's lineup, and there's something they love to do, they draft very squishy front lines. This is effectively 4 carries and a Leona support as the tank right now. That means if you do actually end up overextending slightly, or maybe you fall a little bit behind, you're going to get bursted down very quickly by things like Lissandra. So I actually think on the side of Mad Team, there are ways where you can try and get the advantage because of the squishy champions.
Nice little trade there again from Ucal, does grab the pull and combo Uniboy in for a little bit of damage as Lissandra is trying to get the wave pushed up. Also see Score on the right-hand side is dipped down towards that Scuttle Crab. And Smeb right now has been a little bit of a bully trying to hold the wave frozen near the turret. Liang going to respect that for now and just going to hold off.
And if this is the way the laning phase starts, and that first Drake, the Infernal Drake, is going to put so much pressure on this Mad Team lineup, because we've just said 4 carries are going to scale very well if they get their damage items. You can see that already the lanes in top and bottom are starting to stack up. The CS advantage is already starting to be there. If Score just has the ability to play around those 2 pushing lanes on the bottom side of the map, he's going to grab the Infernal Dragon. This game just accelerates to a point where potentially Mad Team can't keep up.
He's definitely going to keep having to push bot lane, also because Breeze just had a very early recall to buy a Cull on his side. Heavily investing now into the late game. Not just the call itself, but the fact he actually recalled this early. He was almost full HP.
You can't see it. There's actually a little cosmetic white flag that he also bought when he was back at the shop. Really just saying, you know what,
don't want to fight.
Exactly.
Let's farm.
Just surrendering the lane, which Deft and Mana will never let you get away with. So we'll see if they can continue building what has already been a pretty substantial early game lead.
But the thing about, you know, Cull versus, let's say, Doran's Blade, these kind of items, is actually like, Cull super early, gives you slightly more lifesteal because it's just a flat amount you get, but it doesn't give you any HP. And that's kind of the one problem, I guess, if you are Breeze and K in the bot lane, is eventually you're going to hit level 6 on the side of Mata and Deft. And that all
it's on auto attacks only. It's not on, like, abilities or anything like that. Not that Doran's Blade is, but just the point that this is such a short-range 80 carry. As soon as he steps up to a creep line, you have to expect that he's going to start taking some punishment. So I understand the investment. I would like to see how they now treat this, whether it is, you know, we're going to start rotating him around the wave early.
Nice response there, actually from K, as Mata does go in with that first Zenith Blade, but loses the early trade with Deft also coming back to lane now with a Vamp Scepter.
Because the one thing you can do is if you do have to push in the top lane and you are willing to take these slower recalls to accumulate items, all of a sudden, when that fortification is down, you can maybe trade it into the Aatrox lane. You can see that he's regained control of that wave, push it in. If this happens on a separate bounce around the level 8, 9 mark, then you can potentially look to trade turrets, open up the map. And in a 50-50 game, you know, when you have something like a Kai'Sa in the bottom lane, you are happy to just trade gold. As long as you're going even, Kai'Sa should eventually get ahead, should be able to out-team fight.
Certainly the plan there for Mad as they try and weather some of the early game storm. As you can see, Ucal is going to return back to lane, actually has just some early defensive components here. As Uniboy maybe also taking a recall. Not yet though, but that revolver does signal that maybe Proto Belt, something we've seen from Lissandra a lot historically, but kind of depending on how the players are feeling a lot of the time. Kongyue though, back down towards the bot side. He's going to, again, make sure that Score isn't quite in the area. As we can see though, he's about to sneak into this bot side and try and give this KT bot lane their first blood.
Gotta remember the double cleanse. They should not be able to just die straight away. He will also sneak into the next brush here with the big wave. We do have Olaf on bottom side. He is level 6 now. Been doing Crux twice now. Something we see actually from all the Olaf players now. They just really value getting down to do that camp for the massive amount of experience. But Spawn earlier, you mentioned the Infernal Drake. pretty set up for now. We'll take some damage though.
Yeah, and this is one thing that you do have to appreciate is the fact that Mad said, you know what, we don't have the push in the mid lane, we don't have push bottom lane. If we fight at this stage, we're probably going to be burning teleports to get behind them. There's no real wards to be able to do that. They do just have to let it go. Infernal Drake is one of those things when teams start pinging it at an early game, it doesn't really do all that much until you have 2.5 items. It isn't a big deal now, but it does continue to put that clock on Mad Team, who we already don't think maybe have that late game execution.
Yeah, and you get it for free.
Yeah.
Like, you didn't actually trade it for anything. You didn't really lose a whole lot. Maybe 3 minions bot lane, and that was about it.
Hey, red buff. They're both red.
That's true. You lose your red buff now.
I mean, I think I've cast 2 different 4-minute Drakes from Olaf already, so kind of denying that option is nice from KT as well, but at least the steal here, as you mentioned, happy to trade something around the map.
There's a little bit of pressure on Smeb as well, knowing, okay, my jungler was bot side. They saw the Drake go down, so their jungler should be top side. He is just stepping away from the turret.
Ooh, he's going to get smack daddy there. Smeb, though, just kind of dancing back to the wave with that Tiamat. Should be able to clear it pretty nicely. And Score is behind him in the lane just in case any shenanigans
and
arrive.
That's both junglers so far, you know, Mad and KT, just shadowing the lane that had a big creep wave stacking into it. Not only is it bad to die first, it's also pretty bad if you lose the creep wave. Looks like some aggression top lane.
Don't land. Smeb, though, back in with the Blade Surge. Pops the Vanguard's edge. Here's Score, as that could be trouble already for Liang. Pops the World Ender, needs to live, is now going to resurrect, has the flash ready to go, but Taliyah is going to be able to line it up. Runs forward, Smeb looking for the first place, and he dodges the W, and Liang, he's out! Score! Okay, not that out, Score going to ride in, look to dive the turret, and that knock-up if it hit may have been the kill, but instead it's first blood for Score.
Yeah, no reaction from Uniboy, even with TP in the mid lane. He could have just used it to the turret and gotten a kill against Score, but he recalled instead. No movement whatsoever. 2 versus 1 top side, first blood KT.
But still, the fact that they were able to navigate it so well, they get 2 summoner spells out there. Probably the best trade you can hope once you're that far up the lane with no real way to retreat. So I do like what the top laner of Mad Team showed there. This is an interesting invade, however, because as we mentioned, Taliyah is quick around the map, already here to try and repel it.
See Kongyue going to try and steal this away, but looks like with mid lane currently getting pushed in, that will be enough to give Olaf that steal.
He's 4-buffed him second clear.
Yeah, that's very
good.
true. Score took first blood instead. We get what starts as a 1v1 top side, obviously very hard for Aatrox the moment Score shows up. And while Score slightly angles the Q, you know, towards the original position and not actually where Liang could go to.
And this is what you're talking about. When Uniboy backed away
come
here,
on,
I thought that teleport was
help
going to be
this guy.
channeled and try and at least return the kill because there is no real way for Score to get back out from underneath that turret.
Because you're 100% getting the kill on the way out. Because the Score can only kind of hide between your 2 turrets. You will kill him. And you're not even using your TP back to lane. So we have to see if he's saving it for potential play maybe on bottom side. Like, that's kind of what we're looking at. You do have Kai'Sa, Rakan. They are level 6, so Rakan Engage is available against something like a Varus. But he needs more than just Uniboy, I think.
Yeah, I'm interested to see whether it is a play where Marta and Deft go over-aggressive. Now that level 6 is reached, whether this is, you know, the flash Varus ulti into a Leona ulti, try and blow up this bottom lane, get all 5 members down into the bottom lane, because they have maintained both of their teleports on the side of Mad.
Yeah, and also, because of that, actually, you might get your little fight here. Nope. But because of the double TP, KT also have like control ward behind them to make sure there's not a deep ward. I think the one that was in a tribe was just killed by Score. So now that's a new ward being placed. Could be a TP location.
Or a dive, perhaps brewing here for KT. Score does not have his ult back and ready, but happy to force here with a pretty big wave on the turret. Turret itself also very low, so KT happy to play for either kills or the turret, and if Mad mess up, they might get both. There's TP topside now as KT will respond. Smeb taking a little bit of heat. It's currently 1v3 under the turret, but Ucal here is going to pop the ulti and maybe look for something, but again, just trying to keep them off the objective. No CC really landing. Chains just going well down to Leona. They are going to die, but there's a good Vanguard's edge for Smeb. Moves everybody off the turret.
And that is not what you want if you're Mad, because all of a sudden you've lost the first turret, still Score is pressuring down there in the bottom lane. And the solo laners of KT just say no, just put up a big wall and do not let them anywhere near aggression on the top side.
Certainly tough stuff there. As KT, as you mentioned though, did nab that turret there in the bottom side. So looking pretty good right now. 1,300 gold ahead.
And KT is so smart because the play that most teams would be looking there is we've got a stacked up wave, we've got a Leona ult, he has no cleanse, let's pull the trigger, let's get all 5 members down there. But they realize that the counterplay is the double teleport, is the ability to collapse, have the CC and take them out. So instead, they don't even go for it. They just pressure. They force them away from the turret. Obviously, when Mad go for the play on the opposite side of the map, they're also able to use Ucal's teleport to repel that. Just very nice awareness of what plays are opening for Mad and stifling that off the map.
And felt like if Mad wanted to cross map here, then you got to be ready to take the 3 versus 2 tower dive.
Absolutely.
And not actually start hesitating around and say, can we do it or not? Because the moment you go up to top side and you actually trade TP for TP, you're losing bot turret anyway. Like, then maybe your answer should not have been go top, it should have been TP bot side and try and match down there. But obviously, Olaf was top already, so he couldn't do it. Sadly for Mad Team, they're trying to win top side, but it's just not been working for them.
And now it's going to be a lot harder because KT have swapped their duel into top side, although maybe it's going to get caught out here. Protobelt in, Lissandra all good, there's the recombo. Might be enough to pick up score, it is as Kongyue gets it. Uniboy also low, KT are going to get a great kill as Marta, he's able to pick it up. Now getting chased down by the Olaf as Ucal slays K, and Smeb rising at the last second as Deft able to grab the next kill onto Olaf. Aatrox diving back in, but Ucal nabs the double and KT collapse beautifully.
This is why everyone is terrified of KT. You think you have the proactive play, and they close their door again. Every single time Mad look for it, they just outplay them, and now they'll look for another turret.
They're just so fast. They see the fight, they react instantly, and then we know mechanically they can execute all these different skirmishes. It was almost too easy for Ucal. He just kind of stood at the side and spammed a few Qs in the head of Mad.
And you look at the juxtaposition, the hesitation on the top side of the play for Mad, the inability to execute on the dive. Then you look at what KT are able to do here, the instant repel. It's just so impressive to watch.
And understandably, as this play starts, we will get themselves our Acer Predator replay. Goodness gracious me.
I like just the initial engage on the score makes sense, like we can kill him. But then you look at Deft already moving from top, while we have Breeze staying to kill the wave. So you're always going to get outnumbered, and you're obviously going to lose 1 or 2 players pretty quickly. Mata, in the end, even stays alive. Now it's looking really rough. We said, get to late game. Olaf was supposed to be that bridge from the early game to the late game, but he's not really found any early success. And now you have Ucal, who, by the way, against TL was already insane.
Yep.
He just picked up 2 kills on the Swain.
Well, another Drake as well for KT, continuing to stack advantages here now, 3,000 gold ahead, as Mad still kind of getting shut out off the map. They have 1 kill, and that's it for their success so far in this game.
And you know Ucal's feeling it right now, because he's got a first item Magi's.
He's learning from Jizuke.
Ah, is that what's happening?
Yeah, you need the soul. I will say one little warning here for Ucal. If you sell the Soul Stealer, you will lose. That's what happened to Jizuke. When he kept the Soul Stealer, he won. When he sold it, he lost.
I also tweeted about him. That's never a good sign. I have a very bad strike rate. I think that this is now a game where something has to go catastrophically wrong for the KT lineup, because we've already seen kind of how their team fight execution works out. You can't really get past. Actually, hold that thought.
Smeb's at it again. Vanguard's edge pop. Gonna keep surfing around here. Liang gonna try and kite it out. Good dash over the wall to maybe keep himself safe. And Smeb's just gonna let him go this time.
Well, it's so hard as Aatrox. One, you're behind already, and naturally in the matchup, you just kind of hit the point where you can't 1v1 the Irelia. Her CC, the fact she can disarm you like this is rough for the Aatrox.
Something brewing here in top side. Perhaps it's 3v3 right now. That turret is getting chunked out. Now this early power Varus Deft did not go Rageblade first. Went Blade of the Ruin King into Pickaxe for a lot of early strength, and KT taking 2 turrets already.
And you've done the right thing. You've rotated your jungler over. You're just looking to repel. You're not looking for the fight. But unfortunately, Deft doesn't really care. Just sits there, prioritizes the right objective. Ucal already moving. And this is why this super team is working, is because every single player is on the same page. They understand what their role in the play is. You can see Smeb rotates into the mid lane, starts that push early, the top side of the jungle. There is no vision. They can't step up to it. And already, K nearly dies.
Score almost got himself a kill. Rakan will get out today.
It feels bad when you are sitting on Moby boots and your upgraded coin, and that's it. And the enemy team is already on 1 item, almost 2 on the other side. You're gonna die very quickly here as a Rakan. It feels like Mad Team to have like 1 fight left where they must get a couple of kills and then a tower or 2 to get back in this game. Otherwise, KT will just keep taking everything.
And there's the Rift Herald over for KT as well. Usually this is the thing that gives you either your first outer turret or the one you're missing. KT instead have the luxury of using it on a tier 2.
And the problem is that some of their plays are going to have to come from deep teleports. But you have a look at the vision right now that KT's been able to maintain. There is no vision in KT's jungle. There is no ward past river that you can look to go towards to get maybe a cheeky flank onto someone like Deft, blow him up and try and equalize a team fight. which means that the creativity has to be insane for something to work.
They got the ward now when KT pushes for the tier 2 mid turret. Right behind them, ward is just here. Bottom of the screen, sadly Mata might spot it now.
And the thing is that Deft even just reads the play. He just says, you know what, I am so far up in items, I'm not going to lose a straight damage per second race regardless. My top side of the map is so far behind. I probably am where the play is, so I'm just going to buy the QSS. I'm going to try and nullify some of that.
That's actually one of the worst feelings in League of Legends. When you know you're behind and you see the other people can start building defensive items, so there's even less of a chance you can actually kill them, and they will still deal more damage than you deal.
Well, certainly, again, luxuries that KT are afforded for the advantage they have built on about 5,000 gold ahead as they're fading down towards this right-hand side. Score with that Rift Tower, maybe you wanted to get something started, and Mata leading the charge.
And it's the simple things in League of Legends that make me happy, Pastry. It's going to be the Dragon as the next major objective. So Smeb, as he has no teleport right now, plays on the objective. Ucal has the flexibility to be able to go to the top side of the map, play with the teleport there. It is going to be matched, but they've already been winning their isolated lane. They push in as a unit, get secure wards around a pushing bottom lane. This is just KT, like, slowly but surely taking over quadrants of the map.
But now you do have the chance of a TP flank. There's a couple of wards behind KT that they didn't manage to spot. They were placed like out in the middle of the jungle. You have TP ready for Uniboy. They're still pushing here with the Rift Herald. If you're gonna do it, it should be now.
Yeah, you've got to do it before you perhaps lose this inhibitor turret as KT see it will actually peter out. They took the tier 2. They'll get the charge on the inhibitor turret, but no need to do much else. They are going to rotate to Ucal here in mid lane, who's done some damage to that turret already. Uniboy does not take the first claw. Mad again. Have to start defending at some point, but Mata finds the first blade. There's into the solar flare, the CC chain, enough to kill Liang with World Ender available.
And the problem is you go for the play, it's uncoordinated, it's not on the same page, it just looks sloppy. And we were saying this about TL versus KT. They just didn't make a play. They never really tried to get the game back on their style. But I just think that KT at the moment plays such high pressure League of Legends that whilst you're in the game, you just don't feel like you have that window to execute.
And that is the problem for Mad Team. We already said in the pick and ban phase, in terms of early laners or early game and how good your laners are, they are completely outmatched against KT. We saw that as well, how bunch of their lanes just fell behind. Uniboy did keep up in farm, but didn't actually manage to have any impact on the map. And they just kind of slowly fell further and further behind, and now you're just getting choked out.
This is, again, something that's pretty admirable about this team is that KT are a very stylish team when they need to do. They can make big plays, they can get solo kills and style on you. Other than that, they just play really solid League of Legends and are able to beat you on the map as well. So it's kind of pick your poison, I feel like, when you play against KT. They're always ready to beat you no matter which strategy you choose.
Yeah, I mean, that is a nice change for KT, especially this split. Like, they're no longer the team who will always win the first 25 minutes and then randomly throw once we get to the late game, which just kept happening in the LCK. Like, they've really made sure they are much more consistent now. They can play all phases of the game, and that's why they're so scary. And a lot of people look at them as one of the potential favorites to win Worlds.
And kind of the last hurdle was, can they do that in big games, right? Because historically, they've been able to make things like playoffs runs, but they've never been able to execute in that best of 5. Well, this year, they'll even able to do that. So I think that this really is the team. If you are talking about S-tier favorites, you do have to include with RNG right now. The question is this the style that they can maintain against the top teams at Worlds? Because they haven't really been challenged by either TL or Mad Team as of yet throughout an early or mid game. A lot of area has just been ceded to them from what I've seen.
I think based on the games we've seen in this group, even though it's only been a few, obviously we're casting the teams who've only played once already, but based on those games, like KT looked like the kind of team who can 6-0 in their group. You can then argue, is it a disappointment if they don't 6-0? Well, now we are teleporting into fight.
Oh, Mata insta-blast gets the Q stun. Uniboy actually able to get out of there. Mata with the Zenith Blade poke, but doesn't quite find it over the wall. And now Ragnarok pops that to Olaf over the wall to be safety as Uniboy does self-ult to try and buy more time for his team. But I think it's to his detriment. Nice watch there to dodge the seismic shove, but he is going to finally fall as Ucal on a rampage. Going to chase down under the turret and try and pick off Breeze as well. Doesn't quite grab it, but KT take the kill.
And this is what I mean. They're just terrifying. They know that no one can contest them right now on the side of Mad. They pull the trigger as a unit, everyone flying in, and they only grab themselves 1 kill, but immediately eyes back towards the objective, pressure the Mad lineup, make them come to us.
They have 2 mountains. Happy to start this Baron with the lead that they already have.
All right, Kay, everything is ready. Get in there, be annoying, see if you can maybe stop them from
Goodbye, Baron.
burning it down in time, but of course there's nothing he can do. I actually respect him for trying to save the KDA. Don't want to be the guy who just dies for nothing.
That's what it's all about now. You just stat pad till the end of the game.
With that 6-0-1-1 KDA, you know, that looks good on the stat sheets.
Better than the 0-3, but this is once again just decisiveness. Don't allow him to get over the wall, make him burn the summoner spell. As I mentioned at the start of the game, Smeb's very good at ulting during a team fight to cut off any form, Smeb's score of any form of escape, and this is pretty pedestrian after this point.
At least Uniboy got like almost the maximum amount of like CC and time you can actually buy.
It just didn't do that much.
As Lissandra, sadly, there was no follow-up to actually help him. Team simply were not ready to actually join.
And this is always the age-old question. Is it scarier to lose against RNG when Uzi smashes your 80 carry in lane? You feel like you never had a window. Or whether a team does this to you, just slowly pushes out 3 waves, just takes your turrets in a 2v2, goes into your jungle, takes away all form of economy for your jungler, and then at a certain point in the game, you know, this game, 22 minutes in, you feel like you have no way to actually play now. 2 different styles, but I think both equally terrifying.
He got the minion.
Murder's trying stuff, I think, at this point. Again, KT don't need to do too much more with their 10,000 gold lead, but K, he's going to try and make the play happen, and Deft makes him pay by taking him off the map. Ucal looking for a flank, pops the ulti, needs more Magi stacks. He's only got 14. Give the man some stacks. Smeb gonna take the next one down as Kongyue dies, and KT diving with impunity towards Mad's Nexus.
K just nearly killed himself by dashing through the pebbles both ways. This is a rough game.
I mean, 23 minutes in, KT are gonna finish it right now. They probably want some more kills.
TV back in. We'll see what they can do here as Mad starting to get pressed towards their fountain. Ult from Deft gonna catch Lissandra, who's forced to pop back into stasis. KT again just escorting these minions in. No core taken, turret 1 dead. KT
Oh, they're running away.
I believe the previous quickest game was like 26 minutes or something.
21 minutes.
Oh, 21 was it? Who had, at all-time worlds?
Yes.
I was talking about this year. I think 26-47 or something along those lines.
Oh, no, I mean like doing play-ins and so on.
Yeah. But, whoa, this is not going to be that quick then. Not the quickest victory.
Still pretty speedy, all things considered, as KT will actually back that after taking only 1 Nexus turret.
Is this how you normally build your Swain?
Yeah, very often. I normally have 0 stacks on the Soul Stealer, but I have it, you know.
It's the inverse of Ucal's deaths to stacks. You have the other one. You have 16 deaths and 0 stacks.
Exactly.
All right, well, let's just
Here we go.
again,
That's a great stun. The melee minion is out of action. He cannot take down KT. And then they can actually go for the tower dive. Deft and the rest of the team. Poor K, he jumps in. I think he gets randomly hit by a Q from score and 1 auto attack from Deft, and he's basically dead.
He also took about 5 of those pebbles just in the middle of the fight for a reason. He tried to get the initiation his team needed, but the problem is you're just so far behind at this stage. League of Legends isn't one of those games that even though, you know, the game is scoreboard in their favor, it's still neutral. It's a game that gets harder to win as you fall behind. And I think that this game is a perfect example of how hard a game can get to climb back into.
It's like a football game where when you fall behind, you have to take a guy out of the field. And then
or the field starts tilting on
tilting towards you. Your goal suddenly gets bigger and bigger. Theirs gets smaller and smaller. You're like, I don't know. I feel it's pretty hard to win now.
All right, well, KT just trying to put the finishing touches on this game. Don't have Baron anymore, but don't need to worry too much else otherwise, as Ucal, again, with 16 stacks, a Rod of Ages almost fully stacked, and a Death Cap already finished.
And he needs 25, like, before he can
That's why they didn't end the game.
Win this game here. I want to see him. Preferably a pentakill as well for Ucal. He's played really well so far, both against TL and in this game here. And Mata as well on Leona. We've seen the Leona pick quite a few times. It's not always been that successful for this game.
Ooh, Uniboy gonna try it here. Deft watching grab the shutdown. Able to run it in. Maybe Mad finally found the fight they needed. Instead, Smeb dives onto the backside, and KT is just too little, too late for the squad. As KT gonna take down the last kill, grab the ace, and polish off the game.
And Ucal, he got his 25 stacks in the end. They get to win the game as well.
KT waltz in and finish off the Nexus. A dominant second game here. Looking again to win every single game through groups.
The Korean hope. KT, the only team actually picking up wins.
I mean, it's a pretty good last hope. To be perfectly frank with the situation, KT right now look like a monster. They only gave up 2 kills in that game. They built themselves a 15,000 gold lead in 26 minutes of League of Legends. And across the board, really standout performances from everyone.
Yeah, pretty much perfect on their side. And we mentioned this during the game before as well. Like, Mad Team are just not, their playstyle is not suited to beat a team like KT. It's too slow, it's too focused on trying to get to the late game. You don't want to risk too many things, and we've seen other teams doing Worlds now have success when they said, you know what, we don't want to play slow. We want to try and take the 50-50s. We want to go for big aggressive plays. That's not what Mad Team likes to do. So when they play a team like KT, they sadly end up looking like they're doing nothing.
Yeah, and unfortunately for Mad Team, this is a team that has kind of had regional success through playing the map and having pressure in certain areas. And when you get outclassed in every role in that game, which is exactly what happened, then you cannot play to your style. You're also not good enough at the 50-50 style that we're talking to, so they're trying to stick to their guns. They are trying to play what made them successful, but unfortunately in this situation, it's just not going to work.
Always going to be tough against an opponent of that quality, but to get more thoughts on KT's win, let's send it over to the State Farm analyst desk.
Thank you very much. Pastry time. KT moving to 2-0 while the rest of the Korean region sits at 0-4. So great performance out of them and exactly what you would expect to see out of a team that is considered to be one of the tournament favorites. But I want to identify why it is that this Korean team is finding success where the other two are not.
And to me, it all comes from their jungler's score. Based on how he's applying pressure in the early game is really what has impressed me. And if we just kind of look at how they choose to draft, something that we often see from KT is they don't like a front line. We heard the casters talking a little bit about it, where they don't often like a tank. They like to have carry positions everywhere, but they also have one lane of serious pressure. And in this instance, their top side of the map was the weaker area of the map. And there was the risk of a top lane dive coming out from the side of Mad, but Score was there to predict it. He was there setting up for the potential counter. When he sees an opportunity to punish, he then goes for it.
And it can be really hard to really respect a lot of what Score is doing. You know, it's not the flashiest play you've ever seen. He's not a carnivorous jungle that's constantly in the other jungler's face, killing people, repeatedly finding these solo kills. It's the more cerebral LCK style, and this is why he is so revered in that region, about how he creates the safety nets, how he's exactly where he needs to be to respond to the pressure that his superstar laners are creating, and how he just unlocks them to play their best.
Yeah, exactly that. And I've just been really impressed with what Score was able to do in the early game, and the fact that he then opened up the bot lane as you were talking about, and the fact that he just generates so much of the early leads to allow these stars to really step up is kind of what impresses me so much, because then you get to see the true carry potential of this KT roster.
And I actually think this is KT's final form, particularly because when Smeb was about to be threatened with the dive, which he was threatened with the dive 3 times that game, it's why Score was there for the counter gang. They knew it was a possibility to come, and then when they saw that it wasn't, executed on the kill, Smeb backed up. And that's a very different look from the best of 5 across from Riven when Smeb was solo dying across some sword in a lane. It's no longer this hubris that weighs them down.
See, what I find very interesting in this discussion is that, you know, a lot of teams can identify, hey, where are we strong? And we can play towards that. What was interesting about what you said there, Vedius, was Score also identifies where he's weak or where they're weak, KT, and uses it as an advantage.
Yeah.
As opposed to just conceding it.
And that's one of the things I think many pro players often don't always do.
Oh,
yes.
yes.
It's you identify your win conditions, but you're also identifying your opponent's win conditions. And something that I was told not too long ago is sometimes when the enemy has very specific win conditions, your win conditions go out the window because your whole goal is to stop them getting to theirs. And I think that what Score does very well is, okay, they have an Aatrox. They want to try and get this top side of the map ahead. They may even have Lissandra roam up top. Let's get a Swain in. Let's neutralize the Lissandra, and then let's just hang around topside in the early game in the event that it happens, and you'll see that every time a huge wave was stacking up, he was there, because he's like, that's your win condition. If you get Aatrox ahead, we're in trouble. And he mitigated it, he neutralized it, and that's how they were able to find that out.
I do have to jump in to award MasterCard Player of the Game to Mata, because while we talk about the top side of the map maybe being weak in the Irelia versus Aatrox matchup, it was the bot side for KT that really had the pressure game.
World champion, this guy's the complete package. He's had such a long career, and he has been close to the top of it for majority of that career, taking home the world championship, now putting together this superstar KT squad and being that captain and shot caller.
All right, well, to help us further identify why it is that KT is so strong, we're going to toss it over to Jaff for a bit more breakdown.
Thank you very much, guys. And as well as mitigating disadvantages, KT Rolster, I thought, did an amazing job at capitalizing on their advantages, because when you look at the draft, it was mostly about the shoving bottom lane as the winning point. And I have 3 particular plays where they get huge advantages just off of having the shoving bot lane. It was pretty amazing. It was like watching a strategy game. So here they stack a big wave, they get score to threaten, and the only option that Mad Team has is to defend against the dive, because that's the most pertinent threat. But because it takes so long to clear these minions, they can go get an Infernal Drake, which is uncontestable. Even if Mad Team had decided not to last hit the minions, they wouldn't have made it in time for the dragon. So that was the first play where they get the advantage. You come back to the second play, and again, they slowly stack up a more than one large minion wave. It's about 10 minions at this turret, and then they roam Ucal down. So Mad Team has a choice here. They either completely abandon the turret and give it away. They actually try to make an unconventional play and teleport top lane. Of course, KT is there to respond. They defend the 2-3 dive and get a 1-for-0 turret trade. Again, because they had a pushing duo lane. Now with the turrets down, they get first shot at the top turret. Again, a 10 minion plus stack in the top lane. That's when Score knows he's actually free to move into the river. And even though Mad Team do kill him because they didn't have the shove, look where Deft is versus where Breeze is. The shoving bot lane gives them a numbers advantage in the river, and they again get a huge advantage. So those 3 instances of playing around their shoving bot lane transition themselves into a 6,000 gold lead. And the ability to take one small advantage, like a shoving bottom lane, and turn it into such a huge lead, in my opinion, is one of the things that makes KT in the conversation for the best team in the world. After this performance, we will be stepping away and coming back with Team Liquid against EDG, the other 2 teams in this group, to see who can pull away. See you then.
He's out! Score! And not that out. Score gonna ride in, look to dive the turret, and that knockup of a hit may have been the kill, but instead it's first blood for Score. And Smeb rides into the last second as Deft able to grab the next kill onto Olaf. Aatrox diving back in, but Ucal naps the double, and KT collapsed beautifully. To his detriment, nice watch there to dodge the seismic shove, but he is gonna finally fall as Ucal on a rampage. Gonna chase down under the turret and try and pick off Breeze as well. Ucal looking for a flank, pops the ulti, needs more Majai stacks, he's only got 14, give the man some stacks! Able to run it in, maybe man finally found the fight they needed. Instead, Smeb dives onto the backside, and KT is just too little, too late for the squad, as KT gonna take down the last kill, grab the ace, and polish off the game.
The synergy of brute strength, born of elite core power, to thrive under pressure in the most hostile conditions, and built to overclock. Prepare for combat. Go forth and conquer.